Hello, this is the introductory video to Chapter 6, Family Violence. Many beliefs about family violence are myths, not reality. Family violence is not the complete opposite of love, and in reality, the overwhelming majority of abused wives do leave their husbands. But every day, thousands of women in the United States, along with children and older persons, are targets of family violence. The family is one of the most violent social institutions. Estimating the prevalence of family violence is complicated by the wide variety of definitions for and forms of violence. A narrow definition, which only includes physical and sexual violence severe enough to cause injury, suggests that as many as 14% of wives experience marital rape, 3% of wives experience beatings, 6% of children experience child abuse, and 2% of the elderly are abused. The actual extent of family violence might be much higher. Marital rape, which is the raping of a woman by her husband, is the most prevalent form of forced sex and involves about 14% of wives. Most marital rape involves the use of physical force, which often results in injury. Forced anal intercourse occurs more often than vaginal rapes. Marital rape is as traumatic to the victim as stranger rape is. Spouse assault is very common and might involve as many as 1/3 of couples every year. Few women assault their husbands, and most serious assault involves men beating women. Abusive husbands act as if they have a license to batter their wives, and they do not express remorse by admitting guilt, rationalize the act by blaming their wives for provoking the offense, claim little harm was done, and attribute violence to problems beyond their control, such as alcohol. Some abused women experience post-traumatic stress, including feelings of depression and helplessness. The overwhelming majority of abused women do leave abusive relationships. Those who stay do so because they are socially and economically isolated and fear that their husbands will retaliate if they leave. Women who stay are more likely to be killed by their husbands or strike back in a violent way. Child abuse. This type of family violence is the most serious and victimizes millions of children a year. As many as 20% of women report having suffered sexual abuse from family members during childhood and adolescence, and about 2% of children are seriously abused each year. Daughters are the most common victims, and fathers and stepfathers are the usual offenders. Offenders come from all social classes and ethnic groups, are isolated from others, and experience intense guilt over what they do. Most child abuse is physical, and about 4% of all children are severely assaulted each year. Much of a reported increase in abuse is due to the emergence and growth of a child abuse establishment over the past 20 years, which is made up of social workers, psychiatrists, psychologists, and law enforcement officials who are overly eager to label a growing number of people as child abusers. The establishment was created by the Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act of 1974, which provided funds for the detection of child abuse and led to the incorrect labeling of many people as child abusers. However, the number of children being severely assaulted or abused is a serious problem. Abusers tend to come from lower income families and have some emotional or behavioral difficulties. Victims tend to develop social and psychological problems such as poor academic performance, delinquency, and involvement in drugs and crime after they reach adulthood. The textbook talks about a few causes of child abuse, including the following: the intergenerational transmission of violence, which comes from the experience of abuse in childhood and which is true of 30% of child abusers. Another, society's acceptance of physical violence as an appropriate method to discipline children. Parents who approve of physical punishment are 4 times more likely to abuse their child than others. Poverty, unemployment, and lack of education can also contribute to child abuse. Problematic interactions between parents and children also increase risk. The textbook offers a social profile of family abusers. Average abusers in the family are more likely to be younger, have a lower income, be experiencing a stressful home life, and be socially isolated from others. Except for more serious violence and incest, women are slightly more likely than men to victimize children due to their greater responsibility for child care. A stressful home life and social isolation also increase the likelihood of family violence. The textbook concludes with theories of family violence and social responses to family violence. In the theory section, they offer 3 theories: the social learning theory, the stress theory, and the exchange theory. And you can read more about these theories in the chapter and review my notes in the PowerPoints. As far as social responses to family violence, the textbook says the following: traditional beliefs in the sacredness and privacy of the family usually lead to either lenient treatment for or ignoring of family violence. Nearly all states have passed laws against marital rape and battery, but sometimes they are not enforced. Battered women seek protection at shelters and safe houses and attempt to develop new lives. The criminal justice system sometimes protects women by requiring abusers to participate in counseling programs, but most abusers never attend and are not prosecuted for abuse. Doctors and other professionals in all states are required to report child abuse to a government child protective service agency that provides services or removes endangered children. These individuals are called mandatory reporters. Sometimes protective services, though, are overzealous and falsely accuse and punish innocent parents, especially those using disputed techniques such as recovered memory therapy. There are no formal government protective service agencies for the elderly, but most states have mandatory reporting laws. Some social service agencies provide a wide spectrum of services to abused elderly individuals, including medical and legal services. And that concludes my introduction to Chapter 6.